Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the new Shine by SD Fantasy 2.0 and Halo Horizons shades. These are, I believe, already available for purchase, and these were sent to me in PR from Shine by SD Cosmetics, so thank you so much to Shine for sending these my way. I do have a collaboration with Shine by SD Cosmetics, so obviously I am very biased towards the brand, but as always I'm going to try to be as fair and subjective as possible. Just keep in mind there's no way for me to be completely unbiased. So we're going to do the usual format where I go through each shade, show you some close-up footage and close-up swatch footage, describe it, and then at the end I'll do some comparisons. I didn't do any looks for this video because I plan to do some Reels tutorials on my Instagram, so make sure you're following me on Instagram if you're not already so you don't miss those. But let's go ahead and get into each of the shades. We'll start off with the Fantasy 2.0 shades. The first shade we have here is called Fantasy Flash, and this is an iridescent multi-chrome. It shifts from a very vibrant reddish orange to gold to green. If you are familiar with the shades Sublunar or Titania from Terra Moons, this is the same type of multi-chrome basically. I will compare them later on in this video. Something I noticed about all of the Fantasy 2.0 shades that I received is that they are significantly more textured and flaky than the other shades I have in this collection. Some very much so more than others, so I'll describe those as I get to them. The two I use smooth out relatively easily, but if you have trouble with textured or flaky shades, I would not recommend this collection for you. But anyway, the shade is absolutely beautiful. I am such a fan of this type of multi-chrome, so I love seeing that Shine by SD has come out with their own version of it. Just make sure you're not buying a dupe if you already have one of the Terra Moon shades that I just listed. Next iridescent is called Unstoppable. And this one, no pun intended, this like stopped me in my tracks. Like, it is so beautiful. Oh my gosh. I've never seen anything like this. And that's not to say that this has never been done before, because it's very possible another brand has a version of this and I just don't own it. But let me go ahead and describe it to you. It's an iridescent multi-chrome that shifts from a purple to pink to orange to gold. And I swear it goes all the way to a green from a really harsh angle. This one, no camera does this justice, but in person, this is one of the most insanely shifty and reflective multi-chromes I've ever seen. But for some reason, it just gets like washed out whenever I was taking pictures of swatches and stuff. But honestly, this one and the next one I'm going to show you are my two favorites. They blew me away. If you're going to pick up just two, I highly recommend considering this is one of them. And if you have a large iridescent multi-chrome collection, this may be pretty unique to it. The shade I think it might be similar to is Euphoria from Terra Moons, but I don't have that shade. This is just me speculating based on swatches I've seen, but I know that the texture of the Terra Moons iridescent multi-chromes is very smooth, and this is a very chunky, flaky shade. This is definitely one of the more chunky ones. Next up is called Superstar. This one I think is my favorite. It has a yellow base, and it shifts from pink to orange to gold to green. I've been waiting for a shade to come out like this. I'm so excited about it. It definitely has a sheer yellow base, but I feel like you really see it in the shifts. Like, it goes through this punchy, vibrant highlighter yellow to like a lime. Really, really beautiful. Again, it has that same flaky, chunky texture that smooths out easily to a sparkly finish. And I already filmed a Reels tutorial with this, and I did use it over like a matte, I guess, kind of gradient, and you really can't see that yellow base at all. It kind of just chameleons into whatever mattes you're using. Next up, we have a shade called Top Tier, and this is a hot pink that shifts from pink to orange to gold to green. This is really similar to the shade Obsessed that's from the same collection, but the pink is different. And I will say, if you saw the pink stain on my hand, that is from this shade. It did stain, but I find that all pink shades like this do stain on me. This is a little bit, it's still flaky, but it's a little bit smoother in terms of like the flakiness in this specific collection. Next up is probably my least favorite. This one's called Ambitious. It's like a corally pink that shifts to orange and gold, I guess, but I also see some blue in it from Straight On. It's really hard to describe. This is like a chunky boy. I feel like maybe it has less binder in it or something, because it's easy to pick up a lot of product when you dip in a finger, and it does take some work to smooth out. It reminds me of those shades from Terra Moons that I said I didn't like. I think like Eris and Proxima, I call them like spiky, but this one doesn't have quite as like sharp shards. It's not quite as spiky, but it is one of those really large particle size eyeshadows. So if you like that, here you go. But I don't. It's not my favorite. The last of the Fantasy 2.0 is called Essence. And this is a very potent blue. It has like a cool tone pink shift from Straight On, and then it goes into orange and gold and maybe a little bit of green. but you're probably just going to really see only the pink, orange, gold. There is something pretty unique about this. It's very, very high impact, and I compare it to a ton of other similar shades later on, so you can assess for yourself how similar you think it is to those shades. But this one I'm really excited to use in a look. I like how this is executed, and it's a lot more high impact than other shades I have in similar tones. I would say in terms of like flakiness slash chunkiness, it's like right in the middle. Next up, let's go over these 3 Halo Horizon shades. My biggest criticism about the first shades I received in this collection was that I felt like the hollow or halo particles were not very well incorporated into the actual eyeshadow. So like when I first swatched them, it was like I would swatch, the eyeshadow would come out in a smooth layer, and then the hollow part would swatch separately. And I have been trying them on my eyes because I'm still working on like figuring out the best application method for those, and I'm still kind of like figuring out my thoughts on them. I'm planning to do a Shine by SE guide video. I'm working on the B-roll footage of that now. That was my biggest criticism about the first Halo Horizon shades I received, and you can check out my video on that collection if you'd like to see those swatches. So these ones I actually find are a lot better in terms of the texture and the execution. They are more like loosely packed into the pan. First of all, these swatch all in one layer, and I have used one on my eyes so far, and it seems like the particle size of the hollow halo flex is more similar to the particle size of the multi-chrome eyeshadow in there, if that makes sense. So hopefully you'll see what I mean in the swatches. I really like these a lot more than the first round. The first one we have here is called Mystic, and I don't really see any multi-chrome shift. It's hard to tell, but it's this really pale antique olive gold, and then it has packed to the brim with these hollow flecks. Like I said, they're incorporated very well, so it does come off to this like really intensely sparkly reflective finish. I like how dimensional this one is too, and I think it will be a lot more user-friendly on the eyes compared to some of the first Halo Horizon shades. The next one is called Cascade, and it's this very deep plummy purple, and I see a shift to a gold, and I guess there's probably some shifts in between, maybe like an orange. This one is so sparkly, so intense. Oh my gosh, I need to put this on my eyes. I need to do like a really smoked out look and like slather this all over my lids. Like this is just begging to be put on my eyes. So like I keep saying, I really like the execution of these 3 Halo Horizon shades compared to the first batch I received. But if you're on the fence, I would say make sure to check out other reviews and also wait until I have better formulated my thoughts on them, because like this is just a first impression. I've only used one of these on my eyes so far. The last one is called Flicker. This one is also really unique in tone, pale teal. I think I see it shift into like blue and purple. It's kind of hard to tell what the shifts are because there's just simply so much going on in these shadows. I think the actual tone of it is really unique. You'll see in the comparisons I didn't have too much like this. I'm not a huge blue or teal eyeshadow person, but I feel like this is muted enough that I can see myself actually reaching for it. So I'm very glad to have this. But yeah, that's it for the shade by shade swatches and descriptions. Let's go ahead and get into the comparisons. As always, anything that I received in PR will be indicated with an asterisk in the labels. So for this first group of comparisons, we have Titania and Sublunar from Terra Moons compared to Fantasy Flash from Shine by SD. These are all exactly the same multi-chrome pigment, color, shifts, all that, but they do have different textures and finishes. Titania has the smallest particle size and the smoothest, most sparkly finish. Sublunar has the most flaky, chunky finish, and Fantasy Flash is like somewhere in between. It's definitely closer to Sublunar than anything, but if you can see, it does smooth out to like more of a sparkly rather than flaky finish. Next group, first we have Dancing Waters from Shellwe Makeup. I don't know why I included this because it's like not similar at all. Then we have Glisten from Clionadh Cosmetics, Soda Swamp from Devinah. These are dupes. Then we have Unstoppable from Shine by SD. I feel like from straight on, Unstoppable is similar to Glisten in Soda Swamp, but it's way more shifty, and the camera really doesn't do justice to any of these. I feel like it just kind of like washes all of them out. They're much more vibrant in person, but also the other main difference is that the finish of Unstoppable is way more impactful, flaky, and sparkly. Here we have Pollux and Musifii from Terra Moons compared to Superstar from Shine by SD. Pollux has a yellow base with a pink shift like Superstar, but as you can see, they are quite different. The yellow base is much more opaque, the finish is different, and it's nowhere near as shifty. Musifii is more sheer and it has a peach base, and the shift from straight on looks more orange to me, whereas with Superstar I see more of a vibrant hot pink. So they're similar. I mean, depending on who you ask, maybe you don't need both, but to me I see them as very different. Here are a bunch of pinks. From left to right we have No Choice from Shine by SD, WR124 from Terra Moons, Obsessed from Shine by SD and Flare Star from Terra Moons, which are dupes. Then Top Tier from Shine by SD, which you can see is quite similar, but the pink is different. It's more of an opaque pink base and the tone of pink is much cooler. And then I have Ambitious at the end, which like I really couldn't think of anything to compare it with, so I just like put it with all of these so you can see for context how it looks. Here are a ton of blues for you from left to right. We have Hyperbolide, Star Sign, and the Cosmos, all from Terra Moons. Takeover from Shine by SD, which is a Duke 2 Stellar Apotheosis from Terra Moons. Midnight Nova from Devinah, Revenge from Shine by SD, and Pacific Blue from Shine by SD compared to Essence. So as you can see, I described earlier that Essence was like uniquely very high impact. Not the most unique in terms of tone, but the texture and finish with this tone is something I haven't seen before. It's most similar to Pacific Blue. There are slight variations. The next closest would be Hyperbolide from Terra Moons, but as you can see, the finish is quite different. Okay, now here are all the Halo Horizon shades. I really struggled to find comparisons for these. So for Flicker, I compared it to Drift from their previous launch of Halo Horizons, and then Oxidized from Clionadh. I compared Cascade to Solder from Clionadh. Cascade is deeper and more like smoky. And then I compared Mystic to Heavenly. I feel like these are really similar, but hopefully you can see here how the hollow flecks are much better incorporated in Mystic compared to the shade Heavenly. You can kind of see they're like sitting on top of the multi-chrome in that shade. Okay, let me know if you plan to pick any of these up. I believe you should be able to use my discount code on the website. I know a couple people told me that it wasn't working, but I reached out to Shaniqua, the owner. She said it was still active, so I don't know what was going on, but if my code doesn't work, there's plenty of creators that have one. I know Newport has one. But anyway, that's going to be it. Hope you found this helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel if you're not already. And other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!